Next, I want to welcome up Greg Pollack. He is Senior Vice President of Sales at Association Analytics, joined by Eric O'Connor, the Chief Information Officer at the other AANA. And they're going to talk about how to create an overall experience for your association that meets exactly what your members want and need. So that's going to be interesting. Want and need. All right, guys. There you go.
Squeeze these?
Yep. Turn them on.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Well, I'm excited to talk to you today about data and analytics, and I'm really excited to co-present with Eric. You don't know how awesome of a presenter he is. Give us 20 minutes. We'll help get you there. I wanted to do a little preface, though, because there were a lot of really important questions about AI that I think we can shine some light on. How do we get all of our data into these AI tools? How do we use them? I think Sherry made a comment like, associations have a data problem. Our data is not organized. It's not clean. It's not data governed. If we want to do AI and we want to be successful with it, we have to start with what data do we have and how do we start leveraging that? And that's where we want to come in at Association Analytics. We want to help you with that. And today I'm going to tell you some stories, and Eric's going to shine some light on how he's actually using data to make decisions and how those decisions are having real impacts on his association. So I'm Greg. This is Eric. He's actually the Chief Innovation Officer. Pretty cool title to have. Did you make that up?
Kind of.
Not kind of.
Oh, yeah, I think I did. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at AANA, the other AANA, which I now know. And I focus primarily on looking for new product and service opportunities for members, how we can drive non-news revenue, and also most recently how we can work with startups in the perioperative space and to bring new products and services to our members, but also grow in what we're doing in the innovation space. Data and analytics is crucial to what we do. So we'll talk a little bit about today where we're putting data to work across the organization. I like to find opportunities, and I think it starts with that voice of the customer, and we'll talk about how we're doing that at AANA.
So we're going to talk all about voice of the customer, creating that better member experience, and we're going to do this using the data we already have at hand. We're going to empower our staff and our business leaders to use data they have at their fingertips. But we're not just going to give them data and tell them here's what the answer is. We're going to give them a tool called data exploration, which means when I see data and I have a question, I can click on it. There's things right there in context with my data that help give me a better understanding of this data. Because I think one of the keys to being successful with analytics is curiosity, right? Seeing that insight and go, why is that? What's going on there? What's really happening? What's the story behind the story? Because we think empowering the humans with insights is really the pathway forward, right? And I love a little microscope here because we're going to be doing many experiments with our data. We're going to look at something. We're going to test our variables. We're going to create a control. We're going to send emails out and messages, and we're going to see what happens back. We're going to see how we can be successful with our data, leveraging the voice of the customer. Why do we want to do that? Because we think member experience is at the core of all of those business things we want to do, right? We want to have registrations for our upcoming conference. We want to have people engage in learning. We want to have people renew and retain. So I put two words on here, and I'm going to give them different definitions. Maybe you disagree with me. Retention and renewal. So retention, I'm going to define as the idea of we want to understand why is it that people join and participate with us, and how do we create lifelong members? And renewal is the process of getting them to renew their membership with us. And these are separate tactical things we want to understand. So let's first talk about retention. So when you started at the association, what did they tell you about retention? What was the whispers in the hallway around retention, and how did you get to the bottom of it?
The whispers in the hallway are my favorite place to start when we think about hearing members want. Has anybody heard that from maybe a board member or members at meetings? Yet there's no data to back it up. And I think that's something that's so important, is understanding where are we starting. So where we started was we have a problem with 0 to 5. Our membership is dropping. 0 to 5 years, we're not renewing people. And that was just kind of taken as gospel, that it is 0 to 5, that's what it is. But there weren't really any numbers to point to that. And so the team started to say, well, okay, how would we understand this better? Does anybody keep their membership numbers on an Excel spreadsheet? Yes, okay, my people are here. We did that too. So we had 53,000 members in 2019, and we had an Excel spreadsheet with 26 tabs on it, one tab for every year that we had been recording membership. Your faces are amazing right now. Mine did the same thing. How do you make decisions from 26? I didn't know an Excel spreadsheet could do that. It can. It made through a lot of different versions. We needed real data in real time to make strategic decisions, which is where the Acumen product came in, and we were able to start to ask the right questions, which we'll show you some visualizations here in a second.
So is this true that all of these 50,000 members got the same email when it was time to renew? Is that accurate?
Yes. We sent one email to 53,000 people and one postcard to 53,000 people, which is bad. If there's any marketers in the room, don't judge me. So we've made some changes. We now segment down to the nth degree. In a perfect world for me, predictive and personalized experiences will come. We will be sending one-to-one emails. I think the important part with AI is going to be, I should be able to send you an email on Tuesday at 10 because that's when you read them, not because that's the time zone that we were trying to send to on a specific day. So let's look at how do we start to personalize? How do we start to understand the segments that we want to talk to? We're going to start with dirty data. So Kevin said this earlier, dirty data exists for all of us. It's a thing and it's fine. You'll clean it. So the graph I'm showing you is what we started with. You'll see the big 0 on the left that goes all the way up to the top. We don't have any 0-year-old members, but this graph says we do. We have a couple 120-year-old too. It's fine. We just go delete them once we find them. So the great thing about BI visualization, it shines a big flashlight on your dirty data. So I usually tell people, well, you want to get your act together as best as you can before you start. It shouldn't keep you from starting. Start. Get the data visualized. So what you're going to see here, you see the 20 is the lowest bar that we have. This is where we notice, wait a minute, this age group of members, which is actually 0 to 2 years, which is a huge difference from 0 to 5 years where we started. This group of members is renewing at a 72% rate. If you've been in the organization for 10 years as a member, you renew at a 94% rate. That's a huge difference. And we know that that's closer to industry averages in that 78% is where you want to be, or 80% or higher. 72 is a problem. It had gone down 10% in a decade. So now we know we have a problem 0 to 2. If anybody's been to the doctor will typically tell you the thing that hurts isn't always the problem. So the 0 to 2 wasn't the problem. As we started to dig into the 0 to 2, we found out that students were saying, you don't do anything for us. Why would I be a member when I'm 0 to 2? So we were able to dig in the data first by visualizing it and saying, well, that bar is lower than the others. What's going on? Now we're able to start digging into it and have surveys and focus groups and actually speak to the members to understand what they were looking for and how we could do things differently.
I think this is really interesting because your members went to school and then they went to extra school to do that specific thing in their profession, right? And the fact that they're not going on to work somewhere else, they're going to do that thing in that profession, but they're not members and they're not lifelong members of the association. I think this is the biggest challenge is if we have a hole in our bucket, we can put as much water in as we want, but it's going to keep coming out, right? If we have a retention problem, we can recruit all the members we want, we can send them all the messages we want, but if they're not staying with us, we're not getting that lifelong value of the member. That's the huge problem. And this is even worse because it's starting out right when they're a student.
Yes, and thinking about the value of the lifelong member is moving beyond transactional. So a lot of us transfer CE for our members, or we handle recording their continuing education, or other really transactional type products that they work with. We're not building emotional experiences for them. And so that's where we really wanted to uncover what connection are we building, not only with our current members, but with our students that will be the pipeline into the profession.
All right, so I gave us two definitions, renewals and retention, right? We're really thinking about retention here. What is it that we can do to engage, delight, continue to put that person on a lifelong journey to be a part of our association, right? And I think you were able to really boil that down to where the biggest challenges were in your association when you got there, right?
Yes. So thinking through this value and when we're working with students, what we started to hear, we started to pull students in and we heard from them, you have all these conferences, but it's like you're putting it on for your members. We're members too. So we're coming as students. We want to be CRNAs, certified registered nurse anesthetists, but the programming is for them. We're missing out. What is it that we're here to learn? What could we benefit from? We know there's something, we just don't know what it is. We hadn't been having those conversations. So as we pulled students together and started to add some programming for them, you could hear and see the excitement when they're around their peers as students. But the other takeaway was we want to be around not necessarily members that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years. We want the people that are in that 0 to 2. So how do we build a connection between the students and those 0 to 2 years in the profession, which is getting that 0 to 2 year more excited because they're giving back to the students and they know most immediately what it was like.
All right, so we're working on the strategic problems. Let's talk about the tactical problems, which are literally sending those renewal notices out.
Moving on to, all right, we're now renewing, we're talking about CRNAs and we're talking about solving renewal challenges. So we had seen our market share drop 10% in the CRNA membership over the course of a decade. And I think a lot of people are faced with that challenge. Your membership may be going up a little bit, or maybe it's fluctuating, or hopefully not going down, but market share was a problem. And we said we need to find more creative ways to be in front of members, which I think we have on our next slide. This is one example of, we heard curiosity earlier. Anytime we're talking about data, I think curiosity is so important. So our marketing team loves data. And it was getting close to Halloween and they said, you know what, we should try something. Our membership deadline is October 31st. QR codes became a thing again during COVID. They were almost dead. We were so close, but they're back, which is fine. So they sent out a couple postcards and a couple emails. You know, it would be scary losing you as a member. So they just said, let's throw something at the wall. We think this would be creative. We sent it. We were able to activate $30,000 of renewals with an idea. So they took a segment, is a very small segment, 400 people that they thought this would resonate with, and then they were able to convert. The next item is not very pretty, but it's designed to be that way. So on the marketing team, we are tracking engagement constantly. So we used to send one email to 53,000 people. We now send all kinds of variations to all different segments and numbers of people. This represents 1,000 people that do not engage with our content, which means we automatically stop sending them emails. Because what's worse than getting that last text message and you keep saying stop, yet somehow it shows up, or the email that keeps coming in your inbox, how many times do I have to unsubscribe to this? So we wanted to take that away. But we had this, based on their behavior, we think that they want to renew, but we had them in our lost category or about to lose category. So we did a voicemail drop. Has anybody used Drop Cowboy by chance? Does that sound familiar? Okay, Drop Cowboy, write it down. You can drop an email on anybody's phone in this room right now if I had your phone number. It just shows up. It doesn't call you because that's what we were hearing from this group of people. Don't call me. Don't text me. We did a voicemail drop. We renewed 1,200 people at $800,000. So again, creativity, and we're looking at the data to understand your behavior. Based on your behavior, is there a way we could reach you differently that we hadn't been previously, and then we're able to activate it.
All right, that's the smart way to do it. I was on the phone with an association that won't be named earlier this week, and they told me they have 2 email tools because so many people unsubscribed from their first email tool that they went out and bought another one so they could email them again. And I said, maybe sending more emails isn't the right strategy for you. Let's try something else.
Not to mention the domain flags that probably came with that, but yeah. So moving on, when we're thinking about how are we looking at retention and the campaigns that we're putting in front of people, retention and renewals are so important for us. So I talked about by starting to segment our campaigns and to really speak to members differently, because everybody it's not just where they are in their career, it's their experience and that emotional connection with the organization. So this campaign, you see all members in these pictures. What we heard from members, and they know every stock picture of every nurse in the country, they're like, it's not us. That's ridiculous. You have 61,000 of us now. Why don't you take our pictures? And so we started going around the country and shooting pictures of them. And what we saw was that retention rate went up. And so what we were able to do is our market share had dipped to 78%. It went up to 81%. So by putting the right people in front of the members and communicating in the way that they're looking for, we started to see that membership increase. We started to see the market share increase. And of course, we started to see revenue increase. The fun part, the marketing team, membership team worked really closely to implement everything I just talked about, and we're able to win this award from ASAE, which is pretty fun for them to show off their use of data and creativity to reach the members.
right, I want to bring this topic up because you talked about different strategies to engage, to renew, to retain, to get people to participate with you. But I wanted to bring this idea of this commitment curve up. So on the bottom, we've got potential lifetime value of our person that we want to engage. And on the left, we have how much budget we want to spend and what mediums we want to use to make sure that person engages with us. And I suggest that it might be worth spending a little bit more money to send the postcard, to do the voicemail drop, to pick up the phone and call that person if they're going to be your profitable promoter. They're going to be on the board. They're going to serve for the next 50 years with you. And it might not be worth sending the postcard to every one of your members who may not need it. So there's sort of this inflection point where it's like, okay, you're going to renew no matter what. I don't need to really twist your arm. And then there's this, you're probably never going to renew. I'll send you the email, but I don't expect you to click it. And I think there's this middle area where marketers can really get the most bang for your buck. And I think this is where predictive analytics comes in, is helping me identify the changeables. Where can I spend my marketing dollars and effort to really get the most return on that investment? And I think understanding this continuum is really important. I often talk to people, like, we can't afford to send the postcards or do the voicemail drops. You don't have to target all 60,000 members with the postcard. You hit 400 of them and had a huge return.
The one thing that the Acumen product has in beta right now is predictive analytics, thinking about machine learning and who's likely to renew or not likely to renew in your membership. It's something else that we're working on internally is an RFM machine learning model, which is recency, frequency, and monetary. So how recently have you purchased, how frequent do you purchase, and how much do you spend? And then we break you into 11 different cohorts. From the upper left-hand corner is the champion. This is the people that buy all the time, to Greg's point. I don't need to send them as much. That's a large group of our membership. But down to the other side, hibernating, about to sleep, or sleeping, those are people where we have a problem and we need to do better. So being able to really break down your membership into segments and then acting on it is so important for your marketing departments.
All right, one other massive topic to talk about here is, I think one of the hardest things associations have to deal with is not doing that thing you've always done for the last 50 years because we've always done it for the last 50 years. Tell me all about your sacred cows.
That's new. I didn't know that was going to happen. We have a big one. This one's fun, but really fun because we were able to start with data and start to understand the members' behavior versus what they were telling us. We're going to fast forward to this one. So does anybody run surveys and you get a survey and the survey says, we come to your annual meeting for CE? Anybody? One person? Okay, well, we do, and our entire annual meeting was based off of that answer of we come to your meeting for CE. So let me show you what actually happens. So the member raising their hand saying we come, and they're voting, and 87% of them say that they come for CE. That red box represents 50% of the attendees earning less than half of the CE available. But the survey they take says they come for CE. And so we have 160 sessions and spend $220,000 on sessions they don't come to. Those two buckets on the far right are the people that earn almost all the CE. The one on the far right that I put a little tiny red box around, those are two people that earn all the CE available. I am not kidding. I had to look yesterday. I was like, it's actually two. It's two people. So when you can start to ask survey questions, it's so important. Surveys are good. Focus data is good, but you also need to be tracking behavior, and you need a tool that can help you do that. So we live and die by our BI visualizations. It's in my pocket right now. It's here in front of me. It's everything that we do is to really, truly be data-driven and start to make decisions that help us better engage the members.
So to summarize it, listening to the members, very important. Analyzing their actual behavior, even more important.
Yes, behavior matters. And moving away from transactions and thinking about that transactional connection to emotional connection. That's what's so important. But that starts with data, which is actually one of the least emotional things, oddly. And then when you can combine that with the qualitative data that you pick up with your members and actually engaging with them, you can start to make better decisions with your marketing.
Takeaways. Encourage your staff to be data curious, ask better questions, encourage them to ask hard questions that don't have answers, and support them in the journey to go getting those answers. When I started in the association industry a while ago. I was told that in the association, we just say, no, we don't have that answer. We're not going to do that. Move on. And I think that caused a lot of problems we ran into, which we weren't sparking curiosity within our staff, and younger people weren't joining the profession. And that's a big problem. It's not just one department either, right? Eric talked about how this is a cross-departmental project. It's not, I'm looking at my marketing data, you're looking at your events data, you're analyzing your membership data. It's, we need to promote cross-departmental insights. I'm looking at all of our data. Data is an asset, right? If you think about what powered the Industrial Revolution was oil, what's going to power the AI revolution is data. And if you're not collecting and organizing and storing your data right now, you're not going to be successful with AI. When the tools you want to use are available, you're going to put all your data in and it's going to give you the wrong answer. And you're not going to understand why, because you and your staff haven't been tuning yourselves to use data. You haven't been collecting the right data, and you haven't been organizing the best possible way to be able to get the insights you're looking for out at the end of the day. That's our time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, guys. There is a question here about one of your first takeaways says, ask questions. How do you get staff to ask the right questions, since possibly they're not asking the right questions, since you have that 26 tab spreadsheet?
Yes. So a couple things. I think I've heard curiosity 5 or 6 times today, maybe 10 times now. And I think that's so important. So first is, how do you develop that curiosity and that growth culture? And are you putting the resources behind it? And so our organization is very different. We've had 3 CEOs in 3.5 years. Thankfully, one of them is here, and we're on the right path, and everything's looking good. But the organization needed to be more curious and needed to ask more questions, and it was typically very siloed. And I think a lot of people can understand what a very siloed organization feels like. Moving to a model that is more, if anybody's read the Team of Teams book from General McChrystal, removing barriers and silos is so important, and that comes from the top. So creating a culture where it's okay to ask questions that you don't know the answer to. And I tell everybody all the time, well, I'm an idiot. I'm just going to keep asking. That has to be okay. And so it's not necessarily about people knowing what question to ask. It's having the permission to ask the questions that's so important. And that comes with culture first.
That seems really hard, and that seems like it's going to take a long time. So let me give you a tactical thing you can do next week in your association to start sparking curiosity. And it's something really simple, and it sounds dumb, but follow me out. It's called the question of the week. We ask our staff a question of the week, and they're required to come not with the answer, because the answer is available, but why that answer is important and what their department's going to do about that answer, right? Eric, what % of members who come to the annual conference are first-time attendees? I don't want to know the answer. I want to know what your department's doing to make that answer better in the long run, right? So everybody has the opportunity to go get the answer, but then they have to be curious about that answer. Well, why are they first-time attendees? What are they doing? Are they coming back as first-time attendees, or are they only coming once? Are first-time attendees doing other behaviors before they become first-time attendees? Is it a certain school or a certain mentor program or a certain email, or do they use our community? Were they in our LMS? Like, what did they do that made them a first-time attendee? That's how I want to spark that curiosity. And at the staff meeting, we're not going to talk about the answer. We're going to talk about what you learned about that answer and how you plan on applying that, and how other departments can benefit from that as well. And I think that is a tactical thing we can all do to start putting ourselves on the pathway to be data curious, right? Being data curious is a muscle. You have to exercise it, right? And you have to have strategies to practice exercising that muscle on a regular basis. And that's a really easy strategy we can all start doing.
Great. Any other questions for Greg or Eric at the other AANA? Fantastic, guys. Thank you.